So we got a question from our buddy, we'll call him Dave here. He's 24 years old. Not too long ago he broke up with a girl that he was living with, and then he set out on a journey to find the perfect woman. And in doing so, he decided to write a description of what he would like to see, what he would like to have, keep and hold in his new woman. He goes on to describe it here as an attractive woman, mature and well-educated lady with good values. Someone who wouldn't cheat on me. A lady that liked to cook and work hard. A lady that didn't like to party and has moved on from her teenage years and has turned to a mature adult. Someone who, like me, lives a healthy lifestyle. A lady who has an attractive body, big breasts, a bit shorter than me, long black hair. Very specific. He knows what he wants and he set out to go find that, and what do you know? He found someone that came really damn close. So I think it was at a gym. He met a woman who was in very good physical shape. Started dating, actually, in fact, couldn't date her right away because she wasn't interested in him. And he pursued for multiple months, about 3 months, until eventually she caved in and said, yes, you know what, I'll give you a chance. And it was a match made in heaven. They did really well together until a few months into it, I'm not exactly sure how long, he started to find flaws in her. The very first flaw is one that he describes as poor nutritional habits. So she would eat foods and drink a lot of sugary beverages and just didn't really take care of her nutrition the way he would have liked her to. And as a result, he noticed that like her breath began to stink. He was like, you know, she's toxic, and her vagina stinks. That's what he says. He says, you know, it wasn't the case in the beginning, but as her dietary habits got worse, she began to stink, and he was like, look, I just can't fucking handle this. And although she was the match made in heaven, some of the choices she made pushed him away, and he broke up with her, and now he gets text messages and phone calls from her. She's like, you know, please take me back, like whatever I have to do. And he's like, now he's in conflict. You know, I gave my heart to this woman, but weird little idiosyncrasies and nastiness, in other words, drove me away from her. And, you know, I didn't find her sexually attractive anymore, and now I want to pursue other women, but my heart is still tethered to this lady. Okay. Let's get past the nastiness part first, because yes, you know what, an unhealthy individual is an unattractive individual. And if she tends to be naturally attractive, but she's making choices that make her stinky, then I could see why you'd be turned off, right? These are choices that she's making. So what I'd like to do with this video is not necessarily approach it from the perspective of your specific concern, because those are habits that she could possibly change. The thing is that now, although she could possibly change that and not smell so bad anymore, and you do have an opportunity to take her back and try over again, and you know, obviously it's twofold. You know, for her own good, it would be better if she didn't eat nasty food and have a stinky vagina, and also for you, because it's like, boy, now I can enjoy being around you once again, because I really do love you. My heart is still tethered to you. Instead of approaching this from that specific situation, what I want to do is I want to broaden it just a bit and talk about loving someone and all of their weirdnesses, all the nastiness, quote unquote, all the things that don't necessarily fit into the box of what society has taught us is acceptable and that we adopt as our own parameter by which we will deal with another individual. It's one of these strange things where, again, and he makes allusion to this in his question, where he's like, my heart is drawn in to this particular woman, but my head is like, no, fuck that. How do you deal with that conflict? It doesn't matter if it's, like I said, if it's something that it's a choice that a person's making that perhaps they could change, or it's, you know, she's got like one eye bigger than the other, or one breast bigger than the other, or she's got like a weird mole on her face, or you know, the little imperfections that make humans human will start to irritate you if you don't adopt the perspective that I'm going to share with you in a moment. Someone who you have easily fallen in love with, you could just as easily be grossed out by because of the weirdest, littlest things. Like if you've ever watched Seinfeld. I used to like to watch Seinfeld on television. It's a sitcom comedy. And Seinfeld could never find the right woman, and it would always be the weirdest things. Two of the weirdest things that I think that he broke up with women for in this show one was man hands. I don't know if you remember this episode, but this woman was beautiful in every single way except her hands were like literally like big, thick, muscly man hands. And every time he saw her hands, like it was funny, like she would wipe something off his face and he'd be like grossed out because her nasty man hand was touching him. Or she'd like open a beer bottle with her hand and he'd be like grossed out. And another one that I can remember specifically was a woman who, oh, there's so many of them. But this was a behavior that the woman adopted where she would eat peas one by one. So he loves this fucking woman, everything's going great, but then he notices she eats peas one by one and he's like grossed out. He's like, that's it, I can't do it. And this is, I mean, there are multiple different examples of this throughout the show. Anyway, so what happens when you love someone and their weirdnesses begin to irk you? What I've found is that the more we come to love ourselves, what I'm asking you to do now is to come inside, come back to yourself. It's usually my invitation in all these videos. Come back to yourself, explore yourself. Look at how you feel about yourself and your idiosyncrasies or weirdnesses. Right? There are things about you that you may not necessarily like and don't fit the mold that you feel you should be falling into. We all have this. And I'm not doing this to point fingers at you because I have this. I've had so many insecurities, especially as a kid, where I would spend hours literally looking in the mirror wondering, do I fit up? Who am I? What am I? I remember this. I thought about it recently. Like, I would spend a lot of time looking in the mirror when I was a kid. And it wasn't because I was self-centered and loved what I saw. It was because of this ambiguity that arose from the question that I was constantly posed, Elliot, what are you? And I was never satisfied with the way I looked. I never fit in. I never measured up to the expectations that I even had for myself. And none of us do. Very rarely will you find an individual. And if you do, it's always tainted with a sort of like psychopathy. They're a little weird if they love every single piece of themselves as is. So what I'm asking you to do is to do an assessment on yourself of those things that you don't love about yourself, but then come to peace with them. Come to peace with yourself in the areas by which you don't measure up. And I found, just in my own experience and in my own self-discovery, that the more I accept myself, the ways I look, the way I carry myself, the things I think, I never measured up in cognitive ability. I was labeled as attention deficit, learning disability. There are ways that I think which are very different than that which the school would deem praiseworthy. I didn't get very good grades. So very easily you could become to hate yourself. I'm just not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I don't look good enough. I'm not right. But through my own self-exploration, the more that I've come in touch with those things that the world has told me is not right, and I've looked at with an objective eye, and come to appreciate in myself and realize that these are actually my gifts. They're actually the things that make me unique. They're actually the things that allow me to be Elliot Hulse, and you to be Dave. And each one of us to be our unique selves, and that is magnificent in and of itself. The fact that you are a individuated portion of God, the universe, Allah. You know that I use these words interchangeably. But that which we don't understand, but from which we come, the more you become to realize just how magnificent that is. And from that place, I've begun to look at other people who perhaps in the past I would have been disgusted by, distrustful of, or just turned off, and actually come to appreciate, love, respect, and uphold the weirdnesses that they have. In fact, I think about, I don't want to call anybody out specifically, but I think about many of the people closest to me, the people that I love the most in my life, and it's just the very things that they're insecure about that I love deeply. I love these things about these people. The very things that they look at themselves or question themselves about and wonder why they're so inferior in this particular way, I embrace, I kiss, I love, I caress. Not just respect, but adore these things in the individuals that I love. And it's not because I should, right? You should love everyone regardless. You should not be prejudiced towards individuals. You should not, these shalls and shall nots. It's not about that at all. And it's not about guilt. It's not about, feelings of guilt about why you should. Again, it's all these shoulds. It's because I love myself. I love my weirdnesses. And through that, I've come to love the weirdnesses. I use that term lightly, weirdnesses. The uniqueness of the individuals in my life. So look, my friend, of course this chick is making some bad choices, and you know what? You might even want to help her explore the roots of her consciousness. Why do you make such poor choices about your health? Help her explore that. It's easier to help someone explore that about themselves when you've taken the time to explore why you make the choices you make. I'm always exploring the choices, why I make the choices I make. We go about life almost on an autopilot. But every once in a while, we've got to step back and look at ourselves and say, well, why the hell do I do that? Why do I feel that way? Why do I keep making these choices? And when you can do that with yourself, and you can be objective with yourself, and you could be honest and loving with yourself in that regard, it's that much easier to help other people go on that journey with themselves. It's part of the reason why I make these videos. It's like I give you permission. I invite you. Look at the weirdnesses that you have and embrace them. And then question, why is it that I make the choices that I make? That's the whole point of this channel. So I'm not saying you need to go back to her. I'm not saying that you need to love her because she's got stinky pussy. I'm saying that an evolved version of yourself, a stronger version of yourself, will come to appreciate who you are as you grow stronger, and will support other people in their journey to becoming the strongest version of themselves. And because of the love for yourself and your expanding love for all human beings, you will not only embrace them, but you will adore them in all their nastiness. Done.